What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2 and another Hero Spotlight. Today we're taking a look at the Barbarian, and my first ever Barbarian Hero Spotlight in DD2. Now, as we play the Barbarian and learn more about him, there will be lots of different builds coming out and lots of different spotlights on the Barb itself. But today we're going to focus with the obvious, and that is the hack and slash tank mode and insane crowd control that the Barbarian offers with the Barbarian's Bath. Now, I'm giving it this name in part because Lalta trolled me with the name of the Barbarian's Bath, and in addition to that, this is a triple Drench build, so we are going to get them enemies wet. There is no doubt about it. Now, if you stack in the storm damage that comes along with Beacon of the Storm or with Lightning Stance, you add just an absolute lane-stopping amount of crowd control that it is really hard to dispute, as the Barbarian can definitely get the job done. Now, this is a hero damage, hero crit, and hero health build, and before we move any further, one of the basics with the Barbarian is you really want to look at your weapon speeds. Of course, melee weapons come in light, medium, and heavy, a light weapon swinging faster but hitting for less damage, where a heavy weapon will swing slower but hit for more. Now, the Barbarian's secondary or offhand weapon is the speed is controlled by the main hand. So always put your slowest weapon in your secondary slot. The ideal situation, of course, is a light weapon in the primary and a heavy weapon in the offhand. This is going to make that heavy weapon swing just as fast as the light weapon is. However, it's going to give you that heavy weapon damage. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the numbers. Now, this build is not going to win you any contest if you're looking for killing the target dummy and beating all the DPS charts. However, it is more than capable of completing all of the current content in the game and is really fun to play if you like a hack and slash style build. So if we come and look just with the primary attacks, we can pretty easily get up around that 2.5 to 3 million range. With spikes going up as high as like 4 to 5 million with a large string of crits. Now, this is just with the primary attack with no stances involved and more than sufficient to get the job done. Now, of course, we do want to focus on stance dancing with the Barbarian, and this makes this build another really good starter build for the Barb, as it gets you in the habit of swapping stances. Now, we're going to focus on two stances. First off, the Lightning Stance to get that storm damage, and then the Siphon Stance for the leech and to keep our health full. Now, the reason I say this helps you get into practice of stance dancing, as we're not going into all of the different stances. However, we're focusing on two and making it so you have to pay attention to actually what's going on. As, of course, lightning damage, or the lightning stance by itself, will kill you if you're not careful, and if you don't have healing in to adjust, you will die very, very quickly. Now, if we throw that Siphon Stance in the mix on top of it, then you see we can still dish out the same damage, yet stay alive in the process. Now, when we look at it with both stances up and using Dragolich and the Barbarian Shout, we can do a considerable amount of damage with spikes going as high as, say, like 10 million damage. So you're definitely able to rip it out just with this hero damage, hero crit build. You see here our sustained is well over 5 million damage, and we're able to definitely get the job done there. Now, another thing with stances is the first stance you activate is your primary stance. So any of your other abilities that are affected by what stance you are in are always going to be based off of the first stance you activate. Stances are also first in, first out. So say I activate my lightning stance and then the siphon stance, and I have an assassin about to come on me, so I pop turtle stance, it is going to turn off my lightning stance as it was the first in, it's the first to leave. And now it makes my Siphon Stance, which is the next first in, my primary stance. Now, you always want to make sure for this particular build that your Lightning Stance is your primary stance, as you're going to get a little mini Dragolich buff every time you shout, and of course the cooldown is very quick on this, so you can keep pretty much all of the enemies debuffed, where all your defenses are hitting harder and you're hitting harder, so gotta love that. Now, hopping right on into the build, let me turn these guys off. As I mentioned, we're all hero damage, hero crit focused. Now, since this build is focused on primary attacks, you can pretty much use any pet you want. I like to use Dragolich just because it's a great multi-purpose pet. You can also use a Poisonous Tips pet. You could use a Sandstorm pet. You can really use absolutely anything. You do want to focus on hero damage, hero crit on all of your stuff. Plus, hero health scales very nice with the Barb, so don't go shy. Get that health jacked up to an absurd number and make it so that you have no issues whatsoever staying alive. Now, of course, we see we've got two resource bars. We've got Fury and we've got Wrath. Fury being the red bar at the bottom, Wrath being the purple bar at the top. Wrath is generated when you deal damage, Fury is generated when you take damage. Now, having that lightning stance up ensures you're going to take damage, and it ensures you're generating lots and lots of Fury, and you'll always be able to keep that full. Now, as we go through the gear, as I mentioned, hero damage, hero crit, hero health on every piece. I do like to mix in a little bit of ability power. As you see, I put some on the boots, and then I've got some on one of the two weapons. Now, I'm not against having ability power on both of the weapons, just to give yourself a little bit more ability power. However, in this case, I did find a nice offhand that has storm damage on it that still has the heavy swing speed, so it eliminates some of that ability power. However, it gives me another source of storm damage to proc that electrocute combo, and that is really what this build is based off of. Now, going through all the shards, starting off with the head, I'm using Worm Scarf. Draining Strikes increases the healing from Siphon Stance by 25%, and Echoing Shout increases the duration of staggering shout debuffs by 5.5 seconds. Now, if we take a look at that shout, it's got less than that of a cooldown. So, by using Echoing Shout, you can have your shout debuff up 100% of the time on any enemies you're facing. Moving on to the gloves, I got Ride the Lightning, increases the damage bonus of Lightning Stance by 21%. Reckless, the Barbarian deals up to 20.5% bonus damage based upon current Wrath. So of course you want to keep that Wrath bar full, and you're going to get an automatic 20% damage increase right there. And then Beacon of the Storm, another source of storm damage that's going to proc that electrocute combo. In the chest piece, I've got Boiling Blood, causes the Barbarian to take 2% of his max health every 5 seconds. This is going to help me generate Fury, so if I'm not taking damage, this is going to naturally generate Fury over time at the cost of not a significant amount of hero health in exchange. Then I'm using Power Gambit, increases my damage done by 50%, and it also allows me to take a little bit more damage, so in turn, I'm going to be generating a little bit more Fury. And Bulwark, as this is a tanking build, a little bit of armor sure isn't going to hurt. In the boots, I'm using Zephyr's Warpath, increased movement speed and Whirlwind by 105%. Full Shell Ahead increases movement speed while in Turtle Stance by 525. And Speed Boost, increase your movement speed by 500, which is the go-to. So nice to see a full set of boots, no doubt about it. In the weapons, I'm using Maelstrom. While Lightning Stance is active, the Barbarian attacks have a 25% chance to drench enemies, stunning them for 3.5 seconds. Now, this 25% chance is Drench number 1. As I mentioned, this is a triple Drench build, and we are going to get them wet. Talon Strike. Hawk Strike now stuns for 4.5 seconds, so if you do want to dump all of your Wrath, you can always throw down that Hawk Strike and make sure you're getting a stun in, plus doing a nice bit of damage on top of it. Then I'm using Thunderstruck, one of the Hyper Shards. Primary attacks have a 26% chance to drench, and do an additional 40% damage as stored damage. Once again, another source of storm damage, another form of drench. If you do not have Thunderstruck, use any other shard. You don't have to have the Hyper Shard to make this work, as 2 drenches is more than sufficient, but I figured what the heck, why not go with 3? If I did not have Thunderstruck, I would probably put Life Leech on, or some sort of utility shard like that, just to make, you know, life a little easier staying alive, or whatever the case is. Now, in the offhand, I'm using Burning Strikes, Drenching Strikes for that third Drench, and then Overwhelm. The Drenching Strikes here is definitely a required shard for the build. Burning Strikes and Overwhelm, you could really use anything you want. I'm using Burning Strikes for a little additional damage, as Burning Strikes works great with hero damage builds, which this build is. And then Overwhelm. Who can complain about a free stun? Certainly not me. Now, taking a look at our Ascension. If I was just starting out, we'll start off in the hero category to the right. As with every DPS hero, the very first thing you want to go into is hero crit chance. Get that hero crit chance as high as you can, first things first. With the Barbarian, you want to make sure you're increasing your Wrath and Fury bars, so the first 20 points for the Barb should always go into Wrath and Fury. Now, Fury, Wrath, and hero crit chance will get you to Ascension 60. As you past that, I usually go directly into movement speed on my Barb, just as a quality of life. The next 20 points in Wrath, I would throw into Lightning Stance to reduce the drain amount. And then the next 20 points into Fury, throw into Siphon Stance to reduce the drain amount there as well. Now, as you continue on up from here, I personally throw all of my remaining points into hero crit damage. After I get Lightning Stance Wrath completely full, I throw the remainder into Hawk Strike just to get a little bit more Hawk Strike damage. And then after I get Siphon Stance completely full, I throw the remainder into Furious Slash damage. Now, Furious Slash and Hawk Strike, of course, are not going to do significant amounts of damage due to those being affected by your ability power. However, if you're in a pinch and you need to kill some flyers, you can still get the job done. Plus, Hawk Strike is still going to hit like a truck. 6.7 mil. Just not quite as much of a truck as it would be if you were an ability power hero. This is a very strong build. This is a variation. You know, on day one I played with a hybrid build just because I didn't have the gear. This is a variation of that build, and the Drench combined with the storm damage can certainly get the job done on your Barbarian and will lead to lots and lots of hack and slash fun. If the melee hack and slash is your thing, this is definitely a build that you will want to take a look at. So that will do it for now. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you leave any comments or any questions down in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to get them all answered. So thank you once again. Click that like button, please subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take it easy.